Thanks to everyone for joining this AIinPharma webinar. Right. Happy to see you taking interest. So let me talk about how this the revelation is quality assurance with AI-driven automation. So here today we are going to talk about how practically we can able to implement an AI from today onwards, right? So let me take a couple of examples. So typically when you look at an artificial intelligence, it's a more of you have a kind of computer systems are designed to perform certain tasks, and because there is a data is already been there and you have some intelligence applied on this data, so that there are some decisions or some recommendations can be provided by the AI engines, right? So now the current challenges, let's talk about the current challenges in the industry. So raising a regulatory expectations and a compliance workload. So it is a really the big challenge in the industry, because the regulatory requirements, that expectations are been changing, and most of the regulatories are expecting the kind of organization to be more digital. So that's the kind of that expectations, right? So and the high deviation volumes and the documentation fatigue. So okay, if you can see that there are high deviation volumes are there and the documentation fatigues, and pressure to accelerate the time to market without compromising quality. So these are the kind of current challenges. Let me get on to the what is this objective of this event is all about. This webinar we aim to kind of take certain examples and which can inspire you domain experts like you, so that you can start thinking on these kind of that AI ideas from your end onwards also, because it is a day-to-day practice, and you can able to create a kind of that ideas, you can able to think of more ideas on your own. So let me start with a classic example which we are every day that we are experiencing. So typically when the Google was there, we started using Google. Then after ChatGPT came into the picture, then we are started depending more on the ChatGPT. Now the most you can able to create a document, you can able to create a PowerPoint presentations, all these things which you can able to do it with the ChatGPT. Then gradually what has been happening is that there are users are moving from a Google to the ChatGPT. So in the same way, we are foreseeing in the industry also that people would like to that use the these recommendation engines at their work also. Okay. So considering this, so this is what is the attempt which as an AmpleLogic which we are trying to do it, so that we can share certain ideas which we can able to practically implement it. So that gives some kind of thoughts in you, so that you can able to come with more and more ideas, because you being a domain experts in the industry. So let me give the there are much hype around saying that AI is going to solve the problems, right? And AI is going to replace humans. So the real challenge of a kind of getting an AI, not a direct that immediate change. It is a stepwise approach that needs to be done, right? The stepwise approach is going to help in terms of achieving the real AI. So let me start with this. What should be the practical approach, and the stage wise how you can move from one stage to another stage in achieving this particular AI success. So the first one is assisted decisions, AI recommendations. Now what does it mean? AI analyzes the data and gives the insights or the suggestions. So what the AI does it analyzes the data and gives you some kind of suggestions. Now the intervention of human reviews and makes the final decisions. The decision is going to be taken care by the humans only, but ultimately the recommendations will be given by the AI. So now typical duration is pilot and early stage. So let's assume an organization is already having some data. So the pilot, we can start with this 3 months, we can start the pilot, and you can run the pilot for 12 months to get how the recommendations are been coming in. And based on this particular recommendations, we can train the model so that recommendations efficiency can be improved. So that is the first stage which we consider it. Then when you look at the second stage is a semi-automation. AI is going to be matured, and at the same time is human is going to be into the loop, right? So the AI recommends and the executives executes with approvals. There are certain kind of thing that can be, which we can talk about in the some of the examples which I've been sharing it with you in the next slides, coming slides. So here what we're trying to do is that AI recommends and executes with some approval, so that it's going to give you some kind of that advanced thing than the stage one. Then the human validates and overrides. Now the AI has been suggested something. Now I'll just override that particular thing, or that I may edit and I make some kind of corrections. So this is going to take 1 to 2 years. But this is the typically when I mean 3 to 12 months or 1 to 2 years. But it is the timeline is going to change, right? The timeline is going to change. The timeline can be depending on the quality of the data, depending on the specific business case. These timelines can be shrinked or timelines may be extended, right? So the next one is the rule-based automation. So what happens is we can able to create some kind of rules. There are certain kind of that the scenarios, right? That these things which are automatically decisions can be taken, which are based on my stage 1 and stage 2. When I come to the stage 3, then obviously I can able to do some kind of that repetitive actions which is being done in the past, that let the kind of system can able to AI can able to take a decisions by itself. Right here, what happens if there are any exceptions are there? So the exceptions, whatever is the exceptions are there, that the humans are going to look into the exceptions, right? And so what happens, the amount of effort when you're going with the stage by stage is getting reduced. AI will be taking over, and human effort is getting at minimal effort getting it from the human end, right? So the typical timeline is 2 to 3 years. Then the next one is adaptive autonomy, right? And AI self-action and also the learning based on its learnings, right? It can able to take more decisions, right? So that's where the decisions dynamically using the feedback loops, right? So what happens is the more the models get trained, it can able to take a standard whatever is being defined processes. It can able to take it on its own. Then but as an organization, as a humans, we can think beyond. We can able to create some kind of value add on top of it, right? So that is going to take a kind of 3 to 5 years. And then autonomous optimization. It is a completely going to be a kind of that AI can be able to take its own decisions on its own, right? So that's the process. When you look at here, what happens is it optimizes the entire process, because the more that what are all the repetitive things, whatever is it is going to tell you how you can avoid those kind of things. So that way what happens that you have a more optimization comes into the picture. Then humans always supervises at very high level. And this is the entire process is when you look at a 5 years time frame, then you can able to see a kind of that the good amount of value at large. You can able to see that this is the kind of value this AI is going to offer. Now what is a typical case studies which we have taken it, right? What is a typical case studies is typically when you look at, there are today the topic which we have been taken on the quality assurance area, right? In the AIinPharma, for the current topic mainly onto the quality assurance. So there is a lot of documentation is there, and there is a good amount of trainings that you need to do to offer to the team, and you have a good amount of data, QMS data, like your change controls, deviations, CAPAs. It is a day-to-day kind of process. But at the same time, why we have taken these 4 areas is nothing, that the only reason is we have a good amount of data, right? The data, good amount of data has been available in these particular areas, where because the most of the companies are into the electronic systems. Now we have the data, how we can use the first stage, whatever I said, first stage of the recommendations, right? The first stage of recommendations is stage 1, how we are going to apply. So that's what which we are going to discuss today with an examples. Now coming to this first one, what we have been doing is so this is the approach. What is an approach what we have been taken? We are going to talk about, and we are going to share you the approach also, so that approach you can able to use it in the real time, right? So what I mean is the questionnaire generation is suppose you're suppose for example, when you wanted to train a person, right? in a specific SOP, you need to make sure that person is being certified to do the required job, right? So when the person is being certified to do the required job, right? So what is the now your questionnaire AI can able to, recommendation engine can able to give you that particular questionnaire, right? So this is what is the kind of that approach, what that as a first case what we have been taken. So what it does, the questionnaire generation is supposed to be a automated. How it is going to be, which we are going to talk in the subsequent slides. Then the second one which we have taken is AI recommendation flow for the deviations and CAPA. How you can able to come with the AI engine can able to give a recommendations for the deviations and the CAPAs, right? And the third one is agentic AI report builder. What does it mean is agentic AI report builder. This agentic AI report builder is going to create the reports because today you have seen the scenarios wherein you are going to create your own analytics. So the analytics requires a good amount of effort, right? So instead of that, how you can able to dynamically create a kind of that your quality metrics, for example, or any kind of that analytics around. So that is what is which we are going to talk in the agentic AI builder. And the fourth one is AI powered DMS chatbot. So how we can minimize the effort of searching the documents for a specific business problem. So that is what which we are going to talk about this in the AI powered DMS chatbot. So let me go on to the particular the required the respective one of the examples. When you look at a AI driven workflow, here we are going to talk about how this solutioning approach also can happen. It is not about how we have been doing this is not the case. How you can able to implement it in your systems, how you can able to that apply these things in your with a little bit of AI knowledge, and which you can gain by doing your own research, right? So when you look at this is what is the staff training, how it is going to happen. First thing is that typically this solution, when we're talking about this AI driven questionnaire solution, the function how it does it, it is going to kind of extract the kind of text from the PDFs and the Word files and the scanned copies via OCR and parsing this into the comprehensive data capture. So what it does is we are using some of the because there is a algorithm models, all LLM models what are been there, we are using certain models, and one request so that's what which we are doing. This text extraction is something wherein we are extracting the data using OCR. Right. So just let me take a pause here. So what I request you is if you have any doubts, in terms of while I am presenting it, and if you have any doubts or the questions or suggestions, whatever you have, you please put it on chatbot, that in the chat which is available here in the GoToMeeting. So then my team can able to answer you those things then and there itself, right? So once when I am explaining each and every example, so to be more knowledgeable on that, any questions what you have, please feel free to ask then and there itself. Because once I complete one example, when I move on to another example, then it is a completely different thing. So that's where I suggest you, because it's a more of a learning session. So you can ask your Q&A then and there itself. Okay. So now this text extraction is going to be done. Then after that, summarization. Here we are using a Llama 3.1, right? This Llama 3.1 models which we are using it to condense the lengthy SOPs into concise and meaningful summaries while removing the redundancies. So this is a model which we are using it, and you can also try out with this particular model, right? So, and this is a model which we trained and we got some good results, but at the same time you can also use the models which you can also use the same model, or you can use the different models of your choice. But otherwise this is an approach what we have been following. And the next one is chunking is done. Then the segmenting the kind of summaries into logical and topic based chunks focused on specific concepts or processes. So this is what is something is chunking process what has been done here. Then after that, we have done the questionnaire generation, leveraging the AI to generate this particular questions. And one is that your true and false, and there's another one, multiple choice questions, and our model is getting maturity in terms of some of the descriptive questions, where that efficiency of the descriptive questions is somewhere like a little bit less in comparison with the true and false or the multi-choice questions. So, but that's the questionnaire generation is done. Then after that, like that MCQs and the Q&A creation. Now generate this particular the complete questions, and they will put it into it automatically creates the questionnaire into the system. Now, the tricky part here, the most of the companies face a challenge. Now, an SOP is uploaded and the questionnaire got generated. Now, the question comes in, when the SOP got revised, then obviously there are some questions are irrelevant and some questions are like, that means should be inactivated. Some questions supposed to be rephrased, or some new questions need to be added. That's where is a big challenge, right? So now this algorithm automatically, whenever the new version of the document comes in, it picks up that particular what is the additional, what is the changes have been done from the previous document to the current document, and can able to give you the questionnaire. Now, so how it works in the reality? Right. So in the same way, just sorry to this one. So now in the same way, what we are doing it, whenever we uploaded this particular SOP document, one side we are making a questionnaire. On the other side, we are also creating a podcast in a different language also. Suppose, for example, if you put in your SOP in some English language, and if you want to take this SOP into your regional language or different language like German, like in India it is a Hindi, whatever the language, if you want, it can able to give you the podcast in that particular specific language. So when the algorithm point of view, the post extraction and summarization will remain same as the previous one, but here the episode suggestions is going to be done by the AI, script generation, and also like audio production. So these are the different that AI tool, the produce AI driven tool, which we are using it to make it that particular specific SOP to be given in a podcast of a language of the choice. Now, let me give an example. Let me run this particular example. If you see it here, it is the screen wherein I'm defining a questionnaire master, right? So a questionnaire master, what I define it, I want from this SOP, I needed 20 questions, right? So that's the job what I have done it, right? So once I've done my questionnaire generation, then when I upload my training material, so it said I'm selecting an auto generate. Auto generate is a new feature that can be added to your current systems. And what is the this is a typical SOP requirements, right? So now when I see this particular thing is, once the SOP has been uploaded, now the questionnaire, these questions have been generated automatically. Typically in this video, it takes some time to generate it, but in this video we try to minimize the time so that we can able to finish this presentation. So otherwise it generates the questions. Now this is what we are talking about in AI recommendation, right? So the first stage which we are talking about, AI is going to recommend those things. Now the user is going to make a required changes. If they want, they can make a required changes. And so that's the kind of that's the scenario, right? So if in the same document I wanted to generate a podcast, then it can able to generate a podcast also, right? So I'm just doing this particular thing once again, repeating, so you can able to see it. Now here, this is what we've been talking about, and the color code talks about it's not been reviewed. Now, once the questionnaire has been generated, then this is what is all the questions are. These are all available in the edit mode, right? Now the user can able to edit these things, right? And that's what which I'm talking about a recommendation. So that's algorithm it giving you this particular thing. Ultimately, user need to click on that particular submit button or an action to make it that like is being submitted, right? So now in the same way, right, when in the training material, whenever I'm uploading my training material, if I'm going to take that particular like generate podcast, automatically the its algorithm creates a podcast by itself, right? So I can select a language, multiple languages I wanted a podcast, so that the multiple files will be generated and will be attached to the respective training material. So this has been made from an English language of an SOP. It's been made in a Hindi.
सुधारात्मक कार्रवाई और रोकथाम कार्रवाई पर चर्चा करने के लिए कैपेस के रूप में भी जाना जाता है। नमस्कार, मुझे लेने के लिए धन्यवाद। कैपा हमारी गुणवत्ता प्रणाली की प्रभावशीलता सुनिश्चित करने में आवश्यक है। वे हमें असंगतताओं की पहचान करने और उन्हें ठीक करने, पुनरावृत्ति को रोकने और नियामक।
So I think this is the way that the questionnaire is going to be, the podcast is going to be available, right? So you can able to generate the podcast, but again, efficiency of the podcast required to be kind of depending on the number of training, number of SOPs we have been uploaded. So this is the way that we can able to make that particular auto generation of a podcast, or if you want like auto generation of a videos also that can be done. So like self-explanatory videos also can be done, but otherwise podcast is more of a question and answers, wherein we can able to club the SOP and also question and answers which has been generated by an AI, both the things when we can able to club it and can present it to the end user. So the next one which we have done is which is something like deviations, because today in this in most of this particular QMS systems, you use a kind, whenever you are entering a deviation, you always say that like there is a checkpoint which you are going to do it. Is there any similar deviation? So now manually the user is selecting which is a similar deviation, so that he is linking this deviation with a similar deviation, right? So this is a little bit advanced than this, that the deviation is going to be whenever the user is entering the deviation, it algorithm checks how this particular deviation related to the existing current deviations available in the system. It pre-populates the data. So now in this one, it collects the data. It collects the data from all your historical data, because most of the companies are having like QMS systems, LMS systems, and the DMS system. That's the reason our focus mainly towards this, which this AI immediately can be implemented. So here you have a volumes of records of these CAPAs and the deviations, right, available in your current systems. We need to clean this particular data, right? How it's going to clean it also, which we can discuss. So now validating this particular data and refining this particular data, and the context understanding, that's the way the AI models are going to play a big role. Then after that, finally the recommendation generation. So this is what is the simplistic approach of that entire cycle is going to be there, right? Now coming to this, what we are trying to do is whenever the user is trying to enter a deviation, automatically every deviation is going to have a root causing. Then after that, you are going to do the next is a CAPA. All these particular things, if there is a similarity, typically the deviations will be repetitive, right? So that to, and again AI need to give a suggestions to avoid these particular repetitive things, but otherwise AI is going to help you in terms of exact matching of more or exact matching of this particular deviation, so that that we can able to minimize the time for the deviation closure. Now coming to this, so this is what is like, this is a when a user is entering the deviation title, right? Now he entered a deviation title. Now just click on this. Now it gives you all the recommended deviations, right? When you look at these recommended deviations, right, and you also get this deviation and also what is an RPN score of this particular thing, and all these things will come. Now the sequence of these deviations will be coming based on the exact matching with the given description by the end user, right? So what we are trying to do it, the AI recommendation engine is going to give you that. First step is been it gives you the recommendation. Now the user enters the details. Then after that, even the review comments also going to come as a part of AI recommendation. And also all the master data, all the kind of the required fields will be pre-populated for the next set of activity also. So what happens? Now I entered my deviation. I used an AI recommendation. Now AI recommendation allows me to pre-populate the remaining fields for that user. Now the user will select is this particular information is right or not. Now he will submit it. Now when the user corrects this particular the information, now that your AI tool is going to be trained again. The model will get trained. Okay, this recommendation is being given. Know that the data may not be clean. Now we can able to correct this particular data. So that's where continuously training the model. So that's where we can able to improvise the quality of your AI recommendations. So this is what these are all the things which is going to be suggested, and that this is a where that you can able to see it from a CAPAs, and the same thing can be applied even for the change control or for the that the deviations and the CAPAs. But there is a one more catch here, if you are looking at a OOS. Now I wanted to do a kind of that the OOS applying a recommendation for a OOS. Now the question comes in. Now the OOS again link with your limbs, right? Now provided the limbs data also, if I train it, then that's where I can able to get the right that output for the OOS scenarios also. So this is the way that you can see that when you see it on screen, you can see all this, even the action plans and all these things can able to suggest certain things. And there are certain things when there is no action plan, it doesn't populate any action plan. Now I need to do that action plan by myself. So this is the way, right? That one, it is not about that I selected deviation for the first time as a recommendation. Now I selected that first step. I used a deviation, enter deviation as per the recommendation. Now in the second step, it automatically collects the first step of information, entire information. Then it goes and checks the kind of again the model checks it and gives you the recommendations based on the previous all that data provided at each workflow level. So that's the beauty of this particular thing. So what happens? It's not in typically what in the current state we use similar deviations, but here what happens? It continuously that looks into the data again and again based on once the user submits. In this way, we can able to clean our data and we can able to make our deviations and the CAPAs or the kind of change controls most effective, right? In terms of AI recommendation. So next is that the same applies to the typical change control also. So now with the AI, we can able to that the minimize certain tasks. I can able to minimize the highlighted ones, right? So you can able to minimize the rejections, right? And you can able to minimize this impacted areas, right? So this is what is the way that what AI can able to do it for deviations and CAPAs. The same way change controls also, you can minimize certain tasks which can be, suppose for example, rejections. Typically that the rejections happens when there is an existing change controls are been running it. So it tells you there is a change control has been running, why do you need to create one more change control, right? So this is the way that AI can able to do certain tasks. And when you look at an effectiveness check also, effectiveness check is also can be monitored, because today we manually monitor that. Effectiveness check can be monitored by an AI, because it's when there is a deviations are been coming into the system, because again it is a part of a QMS system, it is being connected, we can able to kind of that make these kind of effectiveness checks and all these things during course of time will be automated, right? So the next one is agentic that AI report builder. What is this agentic AI? That's what which I was been giving a overview on that. This agentic AI report builder, what it does is like today, if you wanted to generate any kind of the report, right, or analytics, if you wanted to generate, if you are doing a QRM meeting, in the QRM meeting, you have a certain set of standard data, you are reviewing it. Now you don't want it to do the standard this thing, and you dynamically wanted some kind of that the analytics automatically to come in. So that's where is the industry is moving on, because today's problem may not be tomorrow's problem. So that's where what this agentic one AI builder, what it does dynamically, I can create a analytics to a specific problem. Today, my biggest problem is like that my overdue CAPAs is the biggest challenge, and OAS are the biggest challenge. Now I can able to kind of do all these things with this this particular that agentic AI builder. So it is a quite simple that you can connect to any database, right? Whatever is the database which you have, whether you are using a QMS, DMS, LMS, all these applications on one platform or different platforms. So you can connect this particular the builder to the database. Then there is a schema agent. Now, how is the database schema? It understands this particular database schema, right? And then the query agent, which it's not translates this particular your natural language into the, so once you're typing in something, it able to convert into the SQL queries. And the chat generation agent, it generates this particular chats by itself. And the output delivers an automated and data driven reports. So this what is which that agentic AI report builder does. Now coming to this, it connects directly to the organizational database. Now you have a database. Now you want it to, because it's a report builder. AmpleLogic has been done it on with some kind of that research and effort. But the same way, you have a multiple report builders have been available. You can take any one of the report builder and try to kind of start using it by yourself, right? So that's where you can, but the report builder takes some time to get its own maturity, and depending on the multiple databases, that the multiple database schemas and different kind of the complexity of the data, right? Based on that, it's going to change, right? So then it's the complexity of the data is more, then the model need to be trained on, right? And so this is a way that your model is going to gets its maturity. But otherwise, this is the kind of that it can connect to the any databases, and you can comprehend the database schemas with a specialized AI agents, and transforms the natural language queries into an efficient this one, and generates a bar line, bar chart. You see, whatever the charts, because you may start with 4 or 5 charts initially, and the chart components. For example, you may want to start with a pie charts, bar charts, line charts. So whatever is the recommendations which you wanted to start with a small and gradually move on to the kind of complex chart components. Right. Supports this data-driven decision making. So not only this thing, and gradually you can move on to the certain kind of now this particular component is been giving me this is the challenge with this, right? Now I can define some kind of that actions into the some of my QMS modules from this report builder. So that's the beauty of that's where this is an agentic AI thing is really going to help you to a great extent. So now, when you look at this is a typical that the video of the report builder. Now how it looks like, now I am going to make a connection to the database, right? So which database that whatever the database, if I am connecting now to the QMS database, just I need to give this database credentials here, right? And now once I test it, my database got connected. I have a multiple databases, then I use a multiple database connections. It's not a single database. I can connect to the multiple database and I can apply a natural language on top of it. So I'm giving the name of the report builder. That's the quality matrix is my report of it. Now I start typing it what do you want? Now I'm asking my chatbot saying give me the total number of change controls by department wise. So that's something which is that gave a report, right? It picks up I can suggest this. I want the chart. This is supposed to be that bar chart. It tells you that. Now I wanted to define a KPIs that what is the total change control. Ideally, it's not total change control. So typically, when you look at that overdue CAPAs. So that's the next one which this overdue CAPAs is something we are talking about. right? So you can create, and you can also define, like you see, once when the complexity increases. Now, for example, for your QRM, what you have it rate of deviations, rate of OOS rate, how it has been happening here, right? So this is a typical depending on your QRM need, right? So whatever your the review meetings, what you do based on that, you can define for every review meeting, you can create all these things in one particular that is component. And if you want that to be triggered in email, it can trigger an email on a weekly basis. So this is what is the report builder that is going to give you the advantage of creating dynamically the analytics. So even when you are doing a QRM meeting, suddenly you wanted to get into the more data specific to your something, and you can able to create then and there itself. So this is what is going to help the organization in terms of addressing the inefficiencies immediately, right? So now another one, which is an example, AI driven chatbot, right? DMS chatbot. Typically what has been happening, I've seen companies are having a 700 SOPs, 2000 SOPs are there. Now person need to know in each and SOP what is the content is being written, right? And if I wanted to make a query of it, I must need to know that what is the name of that particular SOP, go to that particular SOP, then after that I need to search for that particular specific content. So now this DMS, the chatbot, what it does, it has all the kind of that SOPs or whatever the documents, and again depending on the response times you can define it, and you define that particular all the documents, link those documents here, then automatically it can able to give you the answers based on the one SOP or multiple SOPs, right? So now the document ingestion that automatically detects new or updated document. This is the beauty of this thing. So whenever there is a new document comes in, it tells no, it is a new document. Whenever there is an existing document version is coming, it takes that's version has been this one. Pre-processing text and images. It takes text and images separately, right? Because sometimes we have some queries being written on it. So the text is supposed to be different and the image will be maintained as separate query which you can maintain it. Then again the same, then vectors where we store this particular information into the vectors. Then after that RAG retrieval. The top that is that the matching chunks, right? Usually 3 to 5 are passed to the llama model. Now here we are using a llama model to make this particular the retrieval of this particular data. The response layer that delivers finally, it is that after all this process has been done, it is going to give you the response with the user friendly natural language driven text chatbot, so that I can able to query more on the document. So here this is what is that now I'm just typing something. What is the current CAPA numbering format implemented in the system? Suppose for says what is the current? When I mean that, what is the latest CAPA number that has been that is in the organization? So that's what it gives me this particular number. And also in the same way, if you see the options here, you can have in all documents or specific document. Because if it is taking in all documents, it takes some time to that they respond back. Not much time, but it is a little bit more rather than going with the one document. So ultimately, so what it does, I can able to kind of that is get the pictures also. For example, if I am doing a query of magnetic grill, then it shows what is this, how the magnetic grill means that image looks like from the document. Because in the document also that's where the separation of images and this one which will maintain, so that it helps the people to understand that, especially in case of when there is some kind of that equipment problem or whatever that if you wanted to specific image from where the user can able to check the kind of that issue. So those kind of areas it's going to help you. And not only that, it automatically translates this particular that information. Now in a local language also, it translates that information. It has got a feasibility. If it is an SOP or the question that the typical challenge that happens when the operators are having a language problem, then automatically it helps you in terms of translating this to the local language. So with this, the user can able to get a fair knowledge of the what is this particular SOP specific information, or any kind of protocol or specifications or anything they can able to get it. And it is something which is required to be translated also, it will be able to give you the translated information also to the end user. So this is what, if you want, you can define like, for this particular set of operator, it should be displayed in a specific language, that we can predefine that thing, so that based on that itself, like, that the user will automatically get the respective language. Okay, so then next one is like, we are trying to do it on the interactive APQR, because this is another challenge. Suppose what happens is like, that when whatever we have seen is like APQR is going to collect the data from all the systems. Now the companies are doing it manually. If it is automated, it's quite easy for our algorithm. If it is not automated and it is a manual, records have been there, and it can able to help you in terms of, you can ask a query to this particular APQR, one specific APQR document, and you tell like, what is the challenge, and you wanted to create a CPK automatically, so it can generate a CPK for you. So this is what is the model way it works in. It again, it uses the similar kind of, the RAG models, but again it has got the more like the difference between this one to the other models, where here the most of the data into the tabular format, and also the control charts and all these things have been available as a part of APQR. So the algorithm, how it works, is a little bit different from the, like, the typical the other DMS system. So
introducing the AI-powered chatbot within the APQR application, your smart assistant for faster decision-making and seamless data access. Instead of manually searching through reports, users can simply ask questions like, show me OS incidents for Q1, or list deviations for batch B104. The chatbot instantly analyzes structured and unstructured data across your reports, delivering precise, real-time answers within seconds. It's more than just a search tool. It understands context, learns from queries, and enhances productivity by reducing the time spent navigating complex documents. With the APQR chatbot, you empower your team to focus on insights, not paperwork.
So this is what is like, that this APQR is going to mean, that the work on, right? So then now these are the typical examples what have been given. These examples can be implemented from tomorrow onwards if you wanted to do a POC, because you have a data, and we are not changing any kind of, that approach. Earlier, manually thinking about each and every, like, that process, or like when you look at quality events, you are manually writing everything and making it. Instead of that, like, AI recommends you, but still you need to do the job of a review and a submit. Before you submit, you need to validate that whether it is right or not, right? So in the same way, because you already have a data, you need to apply on it, on top of the data. If you already, you suppose, like, have a data and the current software doesn't support it, you can run it separately also. You can run a separate, like, that is means, that instance wherein, like, that you can get the recommendations coming from there, and just like, that they refer those recommendations. So like this, you can start working on these things today onwards, not even tomorrow. And you being a pharma people, you also need to get into the technology. That's the future is all about, because you are a domain experts, and you know the all the kind of, challenges in the domain. You are the right people to make the kind of train the models. But yeah, it may not be immediately, because I'm not giving an add-on responsibility, but it's going to be the scenario in next, like, that is a couple of years, because everybody need to adopt the kind of technology, right? And now how this particular, like, that is AI adoption can be identify your high impact use cases, wherein, like, you already have a data. Especially most of the companies are having, like, quality and labs are being automated. Areas have been automated, so that's where it's like, you have already a data, and now you can use the first stage of your AI into your first, like, that means into these applications, and your data foundation and governance. So again, like, how your data is there, and there must be some kind of, governance model. And again, the challenge is, like, these models will work in your local environment also, because yeah, it needs a little bit of server resources while training the models, but otherwise, like, you doesn't need to have the API connections to get the models, like, connected to your cloud environments. You can have these models run locally in your servers, right? And now, like, that what you can do is, like, you can do the pilot, and you can try it out how this particular thing works in the real time. And then scale with this change management. Now if it's really doing well, and you can go ahead and start accommodating into your neighbor existing systems. But still again, it is not a completely a change. You're just a recommendations which we are doing it, because it is a pre-populating, just default values which we are keeping it for the users, right? So then institutionalizing means the AI culture and operating model. So a little bit sorry for that. So this is what culture can be gradually get into the system, like what I said, from a stage-wise approach to the kind of making from a POC to the next level. So you can able to adopt these things. That's where I've been talking about a quality and labs. You already have a good amount of that automation, good amount of data. Please don't say we don't have a clean data. We can clean the data, just start using it, right? Sorry. So now, so in my next session, I'm going to talk about, because today we have seen most of the companies are having this document, these applications. So that's where we applied these models, because when we work with few customers, they also have some data. So when we start getting to them, they have the data. That's where it is easy for us also. So that's where we considered it. And now next one is we would like to, next sessions we'd like to focus on the QC and the manufacturing, right? So how you can contribute? So so there are when I talked about an OS idea, this OS idea of this particular thing applying in AI, that came from our last year, when as an AmpleLogic we do the AI Ideathon, where we invite the people to submit their ideas and we reward them for the best ideas, right? So that's what we have done. That exercise, this entire exercise of AI Ideathon has been started in the last year 2024. We got a very good response, and so now this year also we are planning to do the AI Ideathon, wherein you can submit your ideas, because our intent is to share our knowledge, whatever we are trying to do it. But when you start looking into it, you can come with more ideas, because you are a part of the system. You are being there in the shop floor every day. You are handling these deviations every day. You are handling this particular entire OSs every day, right? So obviously you can able to think of a better ideas, and you can that means why don't you share with the industry? Why don't you share with the kind of that the people? And why don't you share with the kind of companies like us? Not only the AmpleLogic, even my competitors can able to see those ideas. So that's what we have done it. So last year ideas, if you want to refer any last year ideas, what are the ideas that's been that is shared by the pharma professionals. So we have these ideas that are being available in our website. You can just go through navigate through these links. You can able to go through these ideas, and we request you to think. Now please start thinking how you can start this particular AI thing, right? You don't need to integrate with the systems. You can run it as separately also. Right. It can also helps in terms of, because there is a lot of challenges, SOPs, 2000 SOPs in the company. Out of that, I can say that at least a good amount of overlap between the SOP content. So there are challenges, many challenges like this. When we keep on discussing, many challenges will come in. But what I request you is please put your thoughts towards this, and also that help the kind of industry will benefit with your idea. And at the same time, you please start thinking how this can be, AI can be an adoption. So that's where how we can able to improve the productivity, how we can able to minimize the inefficiencies in the companies. So this is what is that is our request to you. So please start thinking about an AI, and that when ChatGPT can able to generate an SOP for you, which is a draft kind of SOPs for you, but that there is a day that is going to come in wherein everybody mandatorily need to use an AI. Because once we start using this particular chatbot kind of thing, then obviously people stop that they're putting in, writing the content or writing a document from the scratch, right? So now there is giving 50% of it, or that 30% of it, remaining thing which we are adding it. So definitely it is going to be in your workplace also. So we need to go for these kind of things, right? So request you to please think and start contributing for it. And once again, thank you for all your time and making your time to join here. And it's a late night in India, and also okay, then mid of the day in other countries. But I'll be happy to have you all here. Thank you very much. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask in this. If somebody I didn't see the chat board, right? And if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. And my team will also will be connect to you if you need any kind of query, right? So we can connect with us like that in terms of like info@amplelogic.com, wherein you can reach out to my team, right, so that they can able to help you out in terms of like sharing the more detailed concept of what I presented now. Okay, once again, thank you very much.